Hi everybody. My goodness, it's been over 6 weeks since I've had any kind of communication with my inner circle. Sometimes when I think back on the last 6 weeks, it's hard to even remember what I've been doing. It feels almost like I've been in bed for 6 weeks, almost like I'm waking up from a dream and kind of getting my bearings. But I was going to postpone this video because I'm still having significant physical challenges, but my creative and spiritual energy is quite strong. And it was like a horse that's like pent up in like a corral, or like a what's it called? Like not a corral, like a small booth, and they open the door and the horse just bolts out. And that's what I felt that my creative energy wanted to do, and I felt it wasn't healthy to hold it back, because suppressing the flow, suppressing energy that wants to move forward, contributes to illness. So as weak and as challenging as my illness has been, or my healing has been, I have to be careful with the word language that I use. I decided that this video was going down today. And I called Stuart, my video man, and I said, we may be shooting it from my bed. I might be lying down, but this video is getting shot. And interestingly enough, my energy built throughout the day. I got up this morning and took a shower, which may seem like a big deal, but there are many days when I don't even feel like I have the energy to hold my body up in the shower. And then I went, and I don't even take care of my hair anymore. Once a week, I just have my hairstylist detangle it, because it's a lot of hair and it gets tangled, because sometimes I don't have the energy just to wash it and do basic self-care. And then I had my makeup artist come and do some very light, natural makeup, and I noticed my energy building. And it was because today I'm living like a living person, and it's time. And I also realized too, from the feedback that I've gotten from many people, that while I have an unusual amount of spiritual energy and creativity and vivaciousness for life, that my authenticity and my ability to communicate is what people appreciate most. And Cancer, while everybody loves to see exuberant Laura, I love to feel exuberant Laura. It's important for me to be honest and for people to see the full range. And Cancer is not fun. I mean, I know I'm stating the obvious, but I think it's important for people to know that even if you go the alternative route, Cancer is not fun. And I don't think the alternative route is really any easier than the conventional way. You know, I've lost 15 pounds. You know, I've had fevers, I've had, severe swelling, I've been weak. I just had a blood transfusion on Saturday. Today's Monday, so 2 days ago I was in the hospital getting a blood transfusion because my red blood cell count was so low, which is not uncommon for those who have cancer. I'm not going to ask Stuart to do a close-up, but I have, in addition to the tumors in my body, I have 2 tumors that are visible to the eye, that are growing outwardly. This is This is challenging, and yet I feel compelled to keep moving forward until the universe tells me definitively there's no chance. I mean, definitively. I still feel that there's so much support in the human realm, in the spiritual realm, in the medical realm, and sometimes I want to give up, and sometimes I contemplate whether or not it's too hard, and I can keep going, but it's hard. I don't know. I keep trying. Maybe I don't even fully understand why. So today, as I begin this video after this very long absence, I would like to introduce some of you to my crystals. So this is an ammonite, and it's one of the oldest fossils known to mankind. It's from the sea, and it's opalized. And I like it because it takes you back to the origins. Again, one of the oldest fossils, and they come in pairs. So I think they were closed. This is and then they crack it open, and you can see where the ammonite has opalized. And I like it again because I feel like I'm going back to the beginning, where everything began. Certainly where I began, and certainly where the disease began. And then these pieces are not necessarily aesthetically so beautiful. It's called fulgurite, but it's lightning, it's sand that has been fused together by lightning. And I find that so inspirational. I kind of see it as a symbol of the power of transformation. And very earthy. So these are the crystals that I've chosen to share for this particular video. And then I'm going to introduce my big baby, which is my amethyst. And there's a story behind this one. Most of you know I've had cancer 3 times. First time, they did surgery, 7 weeks of radiation, and hormone therapy. And 3.5 years later, the cancer came back, and I elected for a mastectomy of the right breast. And preparing for that surgery in the anticipation, I purchased this baby, my amethyst, because I knew I was going to be in bed a lot. And when I was in bed, tossing and turning, I wanted to be able to turn and just catch a glimpse of this magnificent inner vibrancy, and have this constant reminder that that's in me as well. Because I knew there was going to be a lot of darkness, and I knew I would need a reminder of the light, which is also why there's so many candles on the table, because that is also obviously a symbol of light. So I think that is a very general update. I don't know how you update 6 weeks plus of a life of someone who is healing from cancer. You know, I choose my language very particularly. I don't say someone who has cancer. I always say someone who's healing. I always say I'm healing from cancer. I never say I have cancer. And after this, as I conclude this update, I think I would like to move into the art therapy. I'd like to say a little bit before I show my paintings. I came in to see, I'm going to give there's two doctors that I'm going to make reference to. One I'm going to call Dr. H, who is my naturopath oncologist, and the other I'm going to call Dr. B, who is my chiropractor. Both of them have given me really enlightening feedback about my paintings, so when I share them, their feedback, I want to be able to refer to them, but I don't want to call them publicly by name in my video. But I went to see Dr. H, and he took my pulse, and he said, wow, your pulse is strong. And then he's an energy worker, so he was doing his craniosacral work and whatever any other energy modalities he knows. And he said, wow, you have a lot of vitality and a lot of creative energy. And I'm thinking, he's crazy. I can barely lift my hand. You know, what is this man talking about? And Dr. H has been telling me for months, he works on me. He's a light touch chiropractor, and he'll say, you know, got a lot of life in this body. And it was very confusing to me because I felt so weak. And then the light bulb went off, and I realized, oh, I do have a lot of life in me and a lot of energy, but it's going towards healing. So there's not a lot of functional energy. There's not a lot of energy available to go climb mountains. There's not a lot of energy to even run basic errands. Sometimes there's not even enough energy to hold my body up in the shower. The energy is being utilized to my healing. And then I could process it without, it made me feel insane to feel like I couldn't get out of bed and have people tell me my pulse is strong. And I have, you know, they feel all this vitality. But after Dr. H told me about all this creative energy, I started painting, and I made 8 paintings in 2 weeks, and it was very therapeutic. And I would like to share this 2-week journey of painting with you and tell you a little bit about what the paintings mean to me and some of the relevant feedback that I've gotten. So welcome to Art Therapy. And this is as I said, I did 8 paintings in 2 weeks, and this is the first painting that I did. And I brought it and showed it to Dr. H, who's my naturopath oncologist. And the first thing he told me that really surprised me is that these lines here are what cancer looks like when it's imaged. And this middle part here is what cancer looks like when it's dying off. So it was really surprising to me to be reminded how the subconscious knows so many things that our conscious mind doesn't know. I had no idea what cancer looks like imaged. Certainly had no idea what cancer dying off looks like imaged. And then tricked and abandoned were the 2 words that came to me while making this painting. And there'll be elaboration on both of those words in some of the other paintings. Dr. H thought that tricked was, for most of you know that I have an extensive sexual trauma history. Rape is an act of violence. Molestation is an act of seduction. And particularly if it's as a child, a young child, the body responds by reflex, and the stimulation is far too much for the brain and the body to be able to handle. So his interpretation was that my body was tricked into responding in a way that wasn't gonna serve me. And abandoned, to me, is quite obvious. I've identified with the abandoned child for a very long time. So this was my first painting, and I would like to progress through the series. So I'm going to get the second painting out now. This is my second painting and probably my favorite in the series. What I like about it is that it's joyful, and while I think it's very important to paint all affect, including those that feel good and those that don't feel good, it was very inspiring during a time of great struggle to paint something this happy. And when I finished this painting, what I said to myself is, this is not the painting of a person who's dying. I just said, this is so filled with life. How could the person who made this painting be dying? It just seemed so impossible to me. And so it reflected back, it sent me a message that really made me believe that it's not my time. Dr. H had a beautiful interpretation of this painting. He saw this as a portal or an opening to the vast spiritual world beyond myself, to which I gained so much of my strength. And I really loved and appreciated that interpretation. Dr. H actually saw this as a uterus. I don't get it. I couldn't see that, but it's abstract art, and so I always value and appreciate all the different angles that one can see in an abstract piece of art. You may be wondering about these beautiful textures, and I'm going to get some art materials to show you how I created those. Here are 2 bottles of, this one is clear granular gel, and this one is core pumice gel. And you can mix them with the paint, and that's where I get these beautiful textures that make the painting so interesting. Also, you may be wondering how I made the middle section of this painting, which was quite fun to make. And I used bottles of paint. So you could just squeeze. If we pretend there was a paper laying flat, I just squeezed, the paint came out, and I just did layer after layer after layer. So it was really fun to paint without a paintbrush for the middle section. And gosh, I probably have 20 some odd layers of paint. I would, the painting would be laying flat, and I would undo the cap and squeeze the paint on, and then squeeze another color on, and squeeze another color on, maybe put 15 colors on, let it dry for an hour or 2, come back and do another layer. I just kept doing it over and over and over till it felt like I was satisfied and it was done. Now I'm going to get my painting number 3. Because I enjoyed the brushless, free roaming, squeeze bottle painting so much, I decided just to make a painting of just that. Again, what makes me happy is the life and the vibrancy and the fun and the freedom that I feel from this particular painting technique. Painting number 4 is a little baby painting, and I love it because there's probably about 8 or 10 different types of those texture gels, and I use many of them to really get a variety of textures. Some of them are smooth, some of them have little shiny like beads of glass in them, and then I mixed it with paint. So I was really pleased with my little baby painting and had a lot of fun really experimenting with texture, which I enjoy. I don't have any interpretations for this painting other than we just call it texture. Painting number 5 was a little confusing. you know, I just sat down and I'm like, you goddamn fucking hoary slut. I was like, where did that come from? It was confusing. It's very disturbing and powerful language, but I'm like, I didn't really connect with it. It was very confusing. And then the rest of the painting, this painting I made the quickest. It was done in one day. It poured out of me. It was just like, the energy was just so ready to spill. But I'm like, what is this? And here are some knives, plastic knives that I glued into the painting as well. And I didn't know what to make of this painting. And I brought it to Dr. B, and he's like, he actually saw a bright light in this painting. Like behind this, there was some kind of bright light, and almost like some of this wasn't even real. Some of this language and other stuff. And then I brought it to Dr. H, and he kind of had a similar take in that this didn't sound like me, but it sounds like a message that someone who was sexually abused might say to herself. But not something, a message that I might want to rewrite. Because it's not true. And I think it's here to be rewritten. I haven't rewritten it yet. It's here to be healed. It's here to be looked at. But doesn't come from my core self. And the knives, of course, can be symbols of basically self-abuse and self-criticism that is also so predominant in children who have been molested. And when family members are involved, the symptoms are far more intense. So that is painting, I believe, number 5. And I will move on to number 6. Painting number 6 took more time to interpret. I had to really sit with it for a number of days. And I knew that this kind of hand-like piece in the center was blocking something. It was like, I kept wondering, if this was removed, what would be underneath it? What's trying to come out? What's being blocked? But I still wasn't sure, what it was about. Dr. H gave me some insight. He said he thought this was my heart, and that my history had interfered with my capacity to both give and receive love, that my heart underneath this thing was still healthy and intact, so there's great potential for me, but that according to Dr. H, and you may have your own interpretation, which I welcome, because none of these are right or wrong. It's kind of like a dream. You can have many different interpretations, and different interpretations at different points in time. But the message that I got through Dr. H was that there's still more healing to be done in my heart for me to love, both give and receive in my fullest capacity. Painting number 7 is totally sexual issues. I had just had a colonic, and they stick this tube into your rectum. And so this is literally kind of like the shape of the tube. It doesn't quite have this phallic head that I made, but I think the colonic and the sexual issues became mingled. So, this could be the tube that goes in my rectum. This could be a penis. This definitely has to do with sexual issues that were activated by the act of a colonic, which, with someone with my history, a colonic where something is stuck in the rectum it can be highly activated to trauma memories. The body remembers everything. So, you know, the body may not understand that I'm getting a colonic. The body knows something's going inside me. And that memory kind of triggers similar sensations and similar associations. So I didn't analyze the whole painting, but this is definitely sexual issues and the colonic experience. Okay, and the last painting of my 2-week series. Intense. Obviously you can see the word abandoned. And Dr. B had when I finished this painting, I had such a sense of accomplishment, and I didn't know why. At one point, I didn't even think I was going to finish this painting, and he noted that the energy kind of comes in and goes out. And what I realized was that through making this painting, I was letting go of my identification with the abandoned child. I think for the first time in my life, I started to feel how supported I am. I started to feel, I was laying down in bed, I felt on the backside of my body being held by something. And I felt this big opening and this endless resource that was both giving and was available for me to both give and receive. And I was laying in bed, and I heard my mom come in, and I heard Bernadette, who also assists me in the home, come in, and I just started crying because I felt so grateful to have this support and to have even the chance to heal. And I have my friends, and I have an international team of doctors, and I have my inner circle that I share with, and I have the spiritual realm. And I think there was a resolution in this painting which says, I am no longer the abandoned child. I am now the human being Laura, who is supported in every cell of her being on so many levels and in so many dimensions. And it wasn't just coming from here. My body could feel it. And so there was a great sense of accomplishment that I actually almost resolved an issue. It wasn't about saying that I was never abandoned. That wasn't even the issue. The issue was, what am I going to identify with? And shifting the identification from the abandoned child to the supported child and adult. Dr. H had an interesting interpretation. I don't see it, but he saw a heart and a vagina. I still can't see it. It's interesting, my mother saw a heart that was chopped off at the head, and that I can see. I don't get the vagina part, but I just may not be able to see it. I may not want to see it. But I welcome all interpretations because, like I said, I consider my paintings, particularly because they're abstract, like a dream that can have many layers, many interpretations, and can have different interpretations during different stages of my life. So no interpretation is right or wrong. It's just what different people see, and people can also bring their own stuff to the painting, and that can influence what they see as well. So that concludes my art therapy sharing. I'm going to move back to the couch just to do concluding moments. Thank you. This has been a full day for me, so I'm a little tired. After 6 weeks of being in bed, this was quite an active day. It began with showering, which I think I already said during times like this is actually a big deal. And I haven't been taking care of my hair, so I had to have it detangled and washed. And I had a little bit of makeup done, and then setting up the setting for today's shoot, and then making it has been quite an expenditure of energy, but so worth the effort. I'm so grateful to be in touch with all of you again. It makes such a huge difference and gives me reason to keep moving forward. You may be wondering why I'm talking about art therapy now, and it's far beyond the obvious. You know, obviously you need to get your emotions out and it's therapeutic. But for me, the spiritual component of my cancer is quite strong. And all the doctors agree that it is not possible for me to do full healing without healing my trauma history fully. And for that reason, art therapy takes on an extra dimension of importance. And I think it's important, you know, I believe that cancer is a very individual disease. I don't really believe in an individual cure because I think we're all unique and the factors involved are always unique. So just because the spiritual piece is so strong for me certainly doesn't not mean that it's this strong for everybody. And I just received news while we were taking a video break just this afternoon that there's been, right now I'm being retested. I had the blood work done and I had the CT scan on Wednesday, and the doctors from California will be consulting with the doctors from Mexico, and a new treatment plan will be drawn up. And of course, I will be updating you on that. So far, there's indications that there's been improvement in the liver and possible decline, possibly the bone cancer getting worse. Once I have the CT scan, we'll have more information about everything, but it looks like, very preliminarily, it looks like some things have improved, some things have gotten worse, and I'm pausing because sometimes I still wonder why I go on, and I have different answers to that question at different times. I don't like suffering. I'm not a masochist. And as I said, I come up with different answers, some of which you heard. And the simplest one is just, I'm not done. I'm not dead, and I'm not done. And I want to end this in gratitude to all the humans, my friends, the inner circle that I shared these videos with, family, the doctors, international doctors in Mexico and the United States, the spirit realm, the universal energy of which I've really mastered tapping into, and both giving and receiving from and to. All the gifts that I've been given that support me in this difficult journey, and all that I aspire to give back to the world. Blessings to everyone who has chosen to share with me on this journey. Sending love and blessings to all of you. Thank you.